Welcome back. I'm being joined by a retired U.S. Army captain and security expert, Mr. Bish Johnson. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So before we went on that break, you saw the situation in Kogi, where the government has put up a 4 p.m. curfew. That's for Kogi. Again, before that, a lot of things happening right now, and efforts here and there. Would you say the efforts are coordinated?
Well, I think what is happening in Nigeria is that, of course, every government comes in with their own idea on how to deal with the insecurity in the country, which I don't think that should be the right way for us to go. I am thinking that we should have a national security strategy that spans across administrations, so that whichever administration comes in has a leg to stand on. We can't do security off the cuff. It's something that has to be sustained. It has to be permanent. It has to be sustained, because every day the criminals are also adding to their expertise. And so we have to find a permanent national security strategy that gets handed over from administration to administration at all levels, both federal, state, and local. So that way we are not doing all these quasi measures here and there.
So there should be like a document that any government coming in can work with.
There should be a national security strategy that should be inherited by every administration, the one that works. You know, we have national security strategy that is always being put in place in Nigeria, but nobody implements them. And so we wouldn't know whether if they had been implemented, whether they would have worked or not. So we have to think deep on what we are doing with that national security strategy.
Okay, so let me break in there and come here. So the president in the Federal Executive Council meeting and a recent briefing also reiterated his directive to the Nigerian Air Force and the security structure to say restructure, realign, and all of that. That and even his directive to the vice president, look at the ranches and see how they can be rehabilitated. Is that also pointing in the right direction? I mean, towards what you talked about, a strategy that works.
Okay, now being that so far nothing that worked was inherited by this administration, and that's why we're still facing. If you look very well, the same challenges we faced during Buhari time are the same challenges that we're facing now.
Yes.
Meaning that the Buhari administration did not curtail the insecurity in the country. And so this current administration now faces the same challenges or even worse. And so it means that we have to reform. We have to restructure, because whatever structure or reform that were in place in that previous administration and even the one before, it did not work. And so, but I am concerned about testing this and testing that. However, you have to test one or two things to see what works. I've seen the directives that are being given out by the president, for example, pulling the police from VIPs and redeploying them so that police people will concentrate on doing policing
work. They are meant to do, yes.
Their constitutional duty. Instead of all these chasing all these VIPs around and carrying their bags for money and all that stuff.
What about the directive to increase the numbers? Fresh recruitment all around.
You have to increase the numbers, because it's obvious that we need enough boots on the ground. We don't have enough manpower. The police, I believe, is roughly about between 370 to 400,000 policemen. That is grossly inadequate for a country the size of Nigeria, both in terms of population and even in terms of landmass. Because when you police, you're not only policing population centers, all the forests and all the uninhabited places where the criminals hide about, they also need to be policed. And so it means that, yes, there should be more recruitment. I believe that even the numbers are not even enough.
What about state police? Would that help? Increase the boots on ground?
I have been a proponent of state policing. You are aware. It's impossible for the federal government alone to shoulder the responsibility of security of the entire country. I am thinking that if at all subnational level, not just only the state, even local government should be able to have their own police. Though it shouldn't be a wild, wild west. There should be some kind of regulation in place so that people's rights and all those things, those police forces are not abused. But we cannot say because they will be abused, therefore the level of insecurity in the country should be acceptable.
Okay, but I've been told that we have to go. But this matters we have on ground in Nigeria, weighed against deploying personnel to Benin Republic that has just had a bit of a shake-up and attempted coup. Is that in any way to protect Nigeria as well?
If you look at it, you can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? Nigeria does not exist in isolation. Benin Republic is our next door neighbor. If there is a catastrophe in Benin Republic, it's obviously going to spill into Nigeria and also become our own problem. So if you, for example, Boko Haram started in Nigeria. It's not only a Nigerian problem now. It's spilled over to Nigeria's neighbors. The same thing can also happen in Benin Republic, where a security problem can start there. And if we don't take time, it will spill into our country. So that's why we can't live in isolation. Whatever we do, the best defense for us is to ensure that our neighbors are stable. So that way it gives us the room and the time to be able to deal with our own insecurity. If they are unstable, that instability may or can spill into our country and therefore exacerbate our own security situation.
Captain Bish Johnson, I look forward to bringing you back again, but we have to go now, and then we'll look at how we can bring you back to discuss this whole matters. Now that the directive is gone forward, action, what's the action like? Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Bish Johnson is a retired captain in the U.S. Army and is a security expert. Thank you again once again.
Thank you for having me.